far as I'm concerned, the Squaxin Island flag is the American flag.
Hence, I have heard several concerns from constituents, potential constituents, I'm not elected, but about the moving of the downtown site over to Franklin, within 500 feet of a school. And if this is a no barrier site, what do we allow in no barrier sites? We really need to think this through about what we're permitting to be close to our schools.
Why are you running for city council, and what are your goals if elected?
Dontae.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dontae Payne, candidate for Olympia City Council position 6. I moved to Olympia due to my service in the U.S. Army. I served in the Army for 6 years and deployed twice to Afghanistan. And after my second tour, I moved here to Washington and separated from the Army in 2016. I attended school at the Evergreen State College and received a Bachelor of Arts degree. And I also have a Master of Public Administration degree from the Evergreen State College as well. And in that time, I served as a regional representative to Governor Inslee. And currently, I now work as a district congressional staffer to Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland. And I have been able to create a very wonderful life for me and my family here in Olympia. We dropped our anchor here because we saw that Olympia was just full of community and had so much character, and we just felt that it was a wonderful place. And so we decided that we were going to stay here. And, you know, I think that that is a story that's not all that uncommon. In fact, I think many people probably share that same story. But I think now coming forward and running for office, this is about giving back to Olympia, giving back to this community who's done so much for me and my family. And I think that we have an opportunity to talk about some very important issues. When I was on the East Coast many years ago, I had never seen such visible homelessness before. I imagine that it's probably gotten significantly worse for them as well, because I do believe that homelessness is a national crisis. But I have to say, it was something that was very shocking to me. And it was sort of the first thing that really initiated this for me. And so I feel a sense of moral obligation and responsibility to do something about giving back to this community and giving back to the people who are in it. And so that's what I intend to do if I'm elected to the city council. And thanks for having me.
Corey.
Thank you for the opportunity to answer this question. Thanks for inviting me here. I'm Corey Gauny, running for Olympia City Council, seat 6. Why I'm running for Olympia City Council: I returned home 10 years ago. I've seen the direction of the city as far as community safety, homelessness, addiction, mental health, and affordable housing in our community continue to get worse. And I understand that some of these are externalities, influences from Seattle, Portland markets, housing markets, things of that nature. And we're attracting people. It was 2 years ago when my uncle was out walking his dog up on Evergreen Park Loop and was assaulted and beat unconscious by a homeless man. That was the catalyst for me to get involved more with city politics and what is going on in our community as we continue to see increased rates of violence, vandalism in our community. That combined with the lack of leadership on our council last year, when there was violence downtown, there was a political stance taken to justify one group's violence and denounce another group's violence, rather than taking a principled stance and denouncing activities, all of these activities together. I have 22 years military experience, 3 years work in state government, project management certification, master's in business administration, studied business and economics. So I've led and mentored folks throughout my military career and been led by diverse groups of folks. I lived 19 years overseas. I've seen the world. I've experienced not being part of the dominant culture. So I can use empathy to understand. I want to bring empathy and compassion and accountability to the table, not apathy. I want to find solutions to problems, have smart objectives, specific, measurable, attainable, and timely, that we can reiterate back out to the public where we are, what's going on, rather than saying, no, we've done what we can. We're going to double down and continue on our current path. As a project manager and with a Lean Six Sigma certification, we can always improve. We continue to improve. That has been my life. That's what I've continued to do as a public servant throughout my entire career. Those are skills and abilities that I want to bring to the table as a city council member.
Question number 2. Homelessness is a central concern and crisis in our community. A recent plan related to homelessness involves a proposed site for people living in cars and RVs that would relocate vehicles parked on Ensign Road to Martin Way and Carpenter Road. Would you please comment on this proposal and how would you relate it to a wider plan for homelessness that you would endorse? Corey.
Yes, thank you, Corey. So I want to point out that 4 times before Olympia has implemented transitional housing, and 4 times before that has turned into full-time housing for folks. So I want to make sure that when we implement plans, we follow through with them for their intended consequence. If they become permanent housing and they were intended to be transitional housing, then our program failed in some fashion or another to transition folks out. And I am all for helping people out. I'm also for moving the campers to a site over on Carpenter Road. I believe that, yes, we need to have barriers in those. Lacey has set something up. They've had 2 people take them up on it. You can come camp, have your septic pumped, but what you can't do is have drugs. You can't be dealing. You can't be human trafficking. You can't be, and I'm not casting judgment. I'm just asking people that want to come to the community and take part in our community to abide by social norms, mores, and standards in our community. I believe the role of government is to remove barriers so that we can provide this. The role of nonprofit organizations and NGOs, such as Interfaith Works and faith-based organizations, is to fill those needs. And the Union Gospel Mission, as well as the food bank, to provide those resources. So I want to be very careful that we maintain our role of government, not as the supplier of these services, but as removing barriers and understanding what the barriers are so that we can serve members of our community. I want to welcome everybody to our community who wants to be a member of our community. That means giving back to our community. I give back through several different ways. In volunteering, I volunteered for Capital High School Parents Org. I volunteered for the Crisis Clinic. I currently am a Rotary member. So these are the ways we give back to our community. I'm running for city council. So I mean, we're concerned, we care. I just philosophically have a different approach on how we would go about that. Furthermore, like Spence, I have heard several concerns from constituents, potential constituents, I'm not elected, but about the moving of the downtown site over to Franklin, within 500 feet of a school. And if this is a no barrier site, what do we allow in no barrier sites? We really need to think this through about what we're permitting to be close to our schools.
Dontae.
Yes, thank you, Corey, for the question. So the scattered site plan, I believe, is a plan that is, we need to respond to what is happening on Ensign Road. It is interfering with operations for the medical facilities. And I think that this is something that is in line with what I would support in terms of my own ideas when it comes to homelessness response. I think that we need to have more transitional shelter for our homeless individuals. And so the scattered site plan, I believe currently they're sort of deliberating over how many that will accommodate. I've heard numbers such as 20 RVs, particularly for seniors. But for me, I think we need to have a conversation on a much larger accommodation. I think that we have folks not just on Ensign Road, but around the city that could benefit from this opportunity. And this is meant to be temporary, right? And this is very important to identify. Transitional shelter is about making sure that we are doing our due diligence as a city and as a government to respond to people's needs in the moment. And we do this by providing that transitional shelter. And while we're doing so, there's an opportunity for us to continue to advocate and provide funding towards permanent supportive housing, which is something I believe is necessary. We need to create a pipeline for people to get out of homelessness. And so this means we are moving folks from temporary shelter or mitigation sites into something more stable and permanent. And so for me, this is something that I support. I do think that we will see more in this regard. And I do think there's an opportunity for us to really see some substantial change and progress on the front, particularly if we address this regionally. So thanks.
Question number 3. Many consider homelessness and affordable housing as interrelated challenges. Please describe how you understand the relationship between homelessness and affordable housing, and please name your goals and methods for expanding affordable housing in our region and city. Dontae.
So affordable housing is something that I believe we need more of in our community in the city of Olympia. And it is something that I think plays a role in terms of homelessness. I think the lack of affordable housing certainly creates challenges for people to be able to afford a place to live. And I do believe that it is one of several reasons that contributes to the homelessness crisis, the lack of affordable housing, that is. And I believe that, as I spoke earlier of the pipeline, that in order to move people out of homelessness and to not have sort of this revolving door of people who are sort of maybe temporarily getting services and remaining homeless, is we need to have an affordable market. And when I say affordable, I mean folks are spending less than 30% of their income on housing so that it's actually attainable and accessible to them. If there isn't anything for them there on the market, then they're not able to actually come out of homelessness. And so I do believe that is the role of our city government to provide that. And this is an opportunity for us to recognize that we will continue to see an unfortunate set of homeless individuals continuing to come into our community, or folks who are already here who end up homeless. And I would like to point out the fact that the 2019 point in time census has designated that majority of the homeless population in this area is from Thurston County. And so that means we have a responsibility to provide this housing. These are our residents. And so I think that affordable housing is necessary. It is a necessary solution to ending the homelessness crisis as we know it.
Corey.
Yes, thank you for the question. I just want to make sure I understood. You're asking me what is the connection between affordable housing and homelessness, and
Yes.
what I would do as policy to address that. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. There is absolutely a distinct link between homelessness and affordable housing. As everybody here knows, the standard definition for affordable housing is housing expenses more than 30% of your take-home pay. I think we can all agree upon that. Philosophically, I think we may differ on how we get there. One of the things I think we do is we attract jobs. We need to attract jobs to our community, better paying jobs. That will help with some of the affordable housing. We need to increase supply of housing. We need to look at what barriers are to developing and building in our community. Those being permit fees, those being permit times. When somebody comes in and submits a proposal for development and it takes a year and a half of tying up that capital, that is a deterrent as a community for us to compete for the resources of investors and developers to build the resources that we need in our community. Going back we also need to look at impact, all the barriers. I'm not saying any of these are bad, but the truth of the matter is every barrier we put into place, every permit, everything that we tie as a cost to building housing increases the cost of that housing. They're great things. Our impact fees go for parks, go for sidewalks, go for our green spaces, our schools, our permit fees, our green spaces, they take up space, but those cost money. That money, that cost, that opportunity cost for those capital investments are passed on to our consumers in our communities. We need to take a realistic look at what all those are. Recently, I got a survey asking me how I feel about our city forests and creating a permit system that 20-inch trees, 20-inch trees would be heritage trees that you can't cut down. You need a permit for anything 6 inches or more. Organizations looking at these, and I say, that's an additional cost we're going to be passing on to people in housing. So how do we keep those costs down in housing so that we can pass this cost savings on to our to the people who are struggling with affordable housing? And when people aren't unable to meet those needs, and when there's additional barriers, first month's rent, last month's rent, this is where transitional housing comes in. That perpetuates a system of homelessness for folks when we have additional barriers like this. Absolutely. Thank you.
The Squaxin Island Tribal Council recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the city of Olympia, and the Squaxin tribal flag was raised at this signing and will now be a permanent part of the flag display over City Hall of Olympia. Describe the importance of this MOU and the role that you would like to see regional tribes play in the ongoing stewardship of these lands.
Corey.
I absolutely think it is important that we as a city recognize our partnerships with our surrounding communities, and recognizing the nation, the native nation that is the Squaxin tribe, as well as our partners with Nisqually tribe. As long as the American flag is held highest and we abide by proper customs and courtesies and pay respect to the American flag, I am all for it. Absolutely. I believe that we need to reach out. It's a great start in reaching out and building relationships with those nation tribes within our community. We need to hear them. We need to understand their concerns, and recognize the impacts that we have in our policies on the lands, the waters that their native tribes have lived with for centuries and decades. So I am all for it. And I would echo Spence that we have an opportunity in our community to elect a Squaxin tribe member to our city council. And I absolutely support that as well. Thank you.
Dontae.
Thank you for the question, Corey. I had the pleasure of attending the event last week to raise the Squaxin Island flag over City Hall, and it was a wonderful occasion. I fully support this. I think it's long overdue. And as far as I'm concerned, the Squaxin Island flag is the American flag. They are the original inhabitants of this land. It is their land. And so I'm happy to see that we have recognized this as a local government by permanently displaying the flag over City Hall. And, I would say that the accord, or the memorandum of understanding, highlights some very important things that I think going forward is going to be important for our government to government relationship. And that includes economic development opportunities, working together. What does the Squaxin Island tribe have to say about our proposals? Looking at arts and culture, there is an opportunity to make sure that representation of the Squaxin Island tribe is there, that it is present. When you visit the city of Olympia, you should know whose land you are on. And I think that's very important. And I'll just say this, the founding, of the city of Olympia, 1859, and here we are in 2021, and we have just recognized this. And it's important to also recognize that if I'm elected, I would be the first Black male to serve on the Olympia City Council in its city's history. And so for me, when I look at that flag, although that is not my identity, I see that we are making progress and that we're moving forward and recognizing that we are better together when we tell the truth about who we are as a people. Thank you.
Anything else in closing that you would like our audience to know about you and your plans of what you will bring to this position? Dontae.
So first of all, thank you to Interfaith for having us, Interfaith Works for having us today. You asked some very important questions and a relief to get some questions that are a little different and very important questions to ask. I will just say that not only do I have a professional experience, I have a lived experience with many of the issues that I'm talking about. When I talk about affordable housing, I am not talking about this from something that I have studied or looked into, although I've certainly done those things. I'm talking about I have lived in government subsidized housing. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to walk the streets and to not feel safe for not only from people who are just simply walking the streets, but also from the institutions that are there to protect us. I know what it's like to feel that. I know what it's like to feel like you don't have enough money to be able to be environmentally responsible and to do your part to change your behavior in addressing climate change. All of these things are very important, I think, to consider as you are, as an elected official, to use that personal experience as a motivator to really change things and make them better for the people who live here. And that's what I intend to do if I'm elected to the Olympia City Council. If you want to know more about my candidacy, I encourage you to visit my website, Dontae, DONTAE, the number 4, Olympia.com. And thanks again for having me.
Corey.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Interfaith Works, again, for what you do in the community, and thanks for hosting us here. I hope that this is just the beginning among the candidates and whoever's elected in discussions on philosophical differences. I certainly plan to do that if elected, listening to wide groups of people, groups from our progressives, liberals, moderates, conservatives, everybody in our community, Black, white, Indigenous, LGBTQ community members. We all have different voices, and we all practically know that you can't please everybody all the time. The approaches we need to take are ones that are principled, that are equitable, and that provide opportunities and access to our government for everybody that is in our community, regardless of income level, regardless of identity. That's what I would bring to the table. I did that 22 years through my military career as a firefighter. We work with people all socioeconomic levels, all backgrounds, all colors, all religious beliefs. And I think that's why I came back home to Olympia, because it is the open, tolerant, accepting place. Out of all my experiences living overseas, this is a unique place, not just in its social environment, but also in its natural beauty. And we need to work with our nation tribes to address those challenges in our community. You can find out more about me at www.coreyforcouncil.org, or you can email me at corey@coreyforcouncil.org. And again, thank you everybody for participating. I look forward to more robust conversations in the future. Thank you.
Well, thank you to our candidates today for joining us.
Anyone that watches my videos is by definition a good person.